Welcome to Priya Health and Fitness Academy. Plantar fasciitis, my goodness. Plantar fasciitis is a pain that is felt at the bottom of our feet, particularly around the arches. Sometimes it can affect actually also our toes and heels. For instance, heel spur can be a byproduct of the stress happening at the attachment of the muscle of our arches. You may not hear that explanation very often, and it's very unfortunate. As trainers, as someone who has worked with many people over the years, I often see a relationship between both. Now, when is plantar fasciitis experienced? Well, most often for people who have that kind of pain, the worst it is when they first get up first thing in the morning. So they get out of bed and step on the floor with no shoes, and they feel as if their arch is literally tearing like a piece of paper. It's extremely painful. It's very sharp pain originally. Oftentimes it becomes a little bit easier as the foot is warming up or just after a few steps. And unfortunately, people experience it also throughout the day. A lot of issues with that. Oftentimes it is, as you will see, being treated the wrong way. And you will discover here soon. But first, let's go with the assessment. So it is a very easy way to assess as to the cause of plantar fasciitis, and this is where we're going next. So to test our foundation is very simple. What we are looking at specifically are the muscle in our arches. Now, I want to point out something very quick before we talk about arches. Many people come to me and they say, in response of me saying, hey, could you have maybe some arch issue where they are too weak? They would say, no, look at my feet, they're looking awesome. Arch is really high. That is irrelevant. What is relevant is how strong your arches are when you stand, when you are weight bearing on them, because if not, there's no way to know, right? I can look really high this way, I have a good arch, but the moment I put weight on it, whoop, if my arch collapses, then I have issue, right? So this is what we are going to test it. And this is exactly what we are going to do. We're going to put weight on it. Look, I'm going to shift my weight, I'm going to go to one side. Before I do this, I want you to see the ankle first, okay? Because this is how you need to test yourself. So make sure that you can see your ankle. If you can, watch yourself in the mirror. And the reason for that is you don't want to have to lean forward to look at your feet, because it's going to affect, one, your balance, and two, the mechanics, right? And so you will see. So one of the first things that we do, actually I'm doing it right now, is standing on one foot. Look, it's very simple. What you do here is first, you stand this way, look in the mirror. Try to have a good view on your feet and your ankle. Now what you do is you just step on one foot, okay? You step on one foot, and what we are looking at is this. If your ankle is right here and stable, great, okay? And that, I want you also to notice something, whether you're doing this or whether you're doing that. That's important, because your arch may affect actually your body alignment, in which case you need to do the body alignment assessment as well as one of our programs. That is free, so check it out, okay? Now, if your body is completely straight, your hips are loaded properly over your foot, right here, you're doing this, and suddenly you see this, whoop, ankle is falling in. Now, we know you're losing your balance because of your ankle, your arch. In other words, your arch is not strong enough to give you stability right here. It's collapsing. Now, I have to work on it in my case. I have to push it in so you can actually see, okay? Now, go to the other side. I go to the other side right here, and I do exactly the same test. I'm standing on one foot right here, and I'm checking whether or not my arch is actually giving me support. Now, what happens if it doesn't? Whoop, it does that. So you see I'm compensating right here, or I'm falling that way. Meaning that if my arch is too weak to support me, I'm going to shift my hips, shift my shoulders to compensate for my arch, pulling my hips this way right here, so I'm going to try to do that. Right here, where my arch is really rolling in, and I'm compensating so I can balance, right? Because in truth, if I'm straight, I'm falling, because the arch is not going in, giving you enough support. So what we are looking in your ankle is whether or not there is a movement inward of your arch, a collapse of your arch when you're actually doing weight bearing. Because what happens when you stand? So let's say I'm standing right here for a certain amount of time, as many people do, for instance, right? You're waiting for the bus, waiting for the subway, you're waiting at the cashier, you're in line for something, or you're just working a lot on your feet. What happens if my arch collapses right here? See that? See the rotation in my ankle, in my arch? It creates huge amount of stress in my lower back, and creates oftentimes for people something called knock knee, where the knees are being pulled inward, and you'll have sensation of soreness and achiness, inflammation inside of your knee. And you can test that yourself. You can touch it and see if you have that. And that is often, unfortunately, is oftentimes the result of the arch pulling your joints inward, which also makes you leaning forward, okay? That also can create problem in your hips as well. But if it's on one side in particular, you may see your hips being displaced. In that case, go to the body alignment assessment. But this is a simple way, actually, to test your arches. I call it the 10-second test, because it doesn't take 10 seconds to stand right here to make sure that you're actually perfectly lined up, or whoop, you're losing right here, your arch, or you stay straight right here, but your arch collapses, and now you're falling. Usually it takes less than 10 seconds. I like the 10-second test. It rings right, and it's pretty easy to remember. Now, you can also do this test with shoes, and you will see in the arch protocol, we're actually talking about specifically shoes and shoes that can help you. So in the meantime, if this is the case where you see your ankle rolling in this way, definitely go to the arch protocol. This will help you because you're going to find out very quickly how to relieve your plantar fasciitis, and you will see that it takes a very short time. I get testimonial all the time of people overnight who had plantar fasciitis and great pain for a long time, overnight getting relief. Pretty crazy, and you will see why in the program. Something else that must be said about plantar fasciitis and its related effect. Besides the fact that bunions sometimes are in relationship with the stress happening in the area of the toe box when it comes to our arches, weakness, and the bone spurs oftentimes happening in the heel area, we also have to talk about Achilles pain. Achilles tendon can be extremely painful, and not only that, but can create great tear. Oftentimes when someone starts sprinting or step on the toes, suddenly they hear pop and they injure themselves. Now, so far in my career, every time I have seen Achilles tear, whether minor or major requiring surgery, there was always an arch issue where the arch had collapsed. And what happens is as your arch collapses, your Achilles tendon choosing the path of the least resistance, meaning that it's going from a straight line as much as possible from an attachment here to another attachment right here, right? Like a rubber band, exactly. A rubber band is not going to go that way unless there's a force pushing it that way. Well, it will go in a straight line, and it's exactly what is happening with your Achilles. When your arch collapses this way, your ankle rolls in, the Achilles tendon slightly shift over time to the side. Now, in my case, it doesn't because I'm just demonstrating, but I'm not always this way. If I was that way all the time, slowly my Achilles would shift this way, choosing the path of least resistance, being in a straight line. Problem is, as your ankle rolls in this way, it also creates a rotation in the ankle that twists your Achilles tendon, and your Achilles tendon is not meant to be working in that angle when the tibia fibula is in a different configuration, right? Tibia is supposed to follow pretty much the line of your calf muscle and your Achilles tendon. When your arch collapses, you start to have issues. It creates a torque and a conflict in your mechanics, which results in pain, inflammation, tightness of the Achilles. Very easy way to test that out is notice which arch is the weakest, then put your feet together, knees together, so your heels, your toes are touching, and your knees are touching, and then bend your knees, and you will notice that by leaving your heels on the floor, your knees going forward, you will feel a tightness in your Achilles tendon on the side where your arch is the weakest. Okay? That again, oftentimes the Achilles pain and tightness and hamstring is often associated with your arch being weak. Now, you also may experience pain in the lower back as well. If your alignment is straight when you stand and you have pain in the lower back, particularly on one side, going down to even the IT band, sometimes iliotibial tract on the side of your thigh, then it is also related to your arch. And the reason is, if your arch collapses right here, your body has to find a way to compensate to try to be as straight as possible so you can function. The muscle that compensate for a weak arch are gluteus medius in particular, as well as the IT band, iliotibial tract on the side of your thigh. Now, not the only muscle. Sometimes you can experience the muscle going from your hip and going into the anterior part of your knee, on the inside of your knee. And that is also part of a muscle that is trying to rotate your knee back in place, because as your arch collapses, your knee rotates. Look in the mirror, wear shorts if you want to, and you will see that when you stand on one foot, if your arch collapses, you can see your knee rotating inward. You cannot walk this way or stand this way for a long time. So your body is compensating, using all the muscles really far away from your arch to try to rotate your knee back in place so you can function. Problem is, that compensation, when becoming chronic, creates lower back pain, particularly in the hip area. Very easy to fix, as you will see in the arch protocol, which is the plantar fasciitis protocol. People have experienced pain relief overnight, even people who've had pain for a very long time. I wish you success with it. If you have discovered that during the assessment it related very much to the symptoms that you have or the issues that you had right here, then do not hesitate. Go to the plantar fasciitis, start the protocol today, get some relief, and by tomorrow already you will feel better.